Oh, well. Hello and welcome to The Truth According to Joe Twist. Joe is the CEO for the Association of UK Interactive Entertainment. This is our next instalment of our live interviews. Thank you very much for coming in today, Joe.
You're welcome.
Can you tell us a bit about your organisation and how you got into gaming?
Sure, well, gosh. So UKIE is a trade body, so we represent the UK games industry to governments, to the media, to the rest of the world, and we try and help businesses do better business, with ultimately the goal of, becoming and we are, really responsible industry, but making the UK the best place in the world to make and sell games, and we're well on the way to that.
So the UK is respected abroad. What kind of games are made here? Do we know some of the games?
Oh, sure. I mean, the UK is really the cradle of the industry. The industry is as old as I am, about 25. No, it's about 40-something. And in the UK, we had a lot of bedroom coders. We had a lot of people who got hands-on with their BBC Micros, their ZX Spectrums, and started to code, because that's what you did with those machines. And that meant that we had this kind of whole generation growing up who are now, studio owners and who are the sort of legends in the industry. So, some great titles come from the UK. I mean, we've got the biggest, fastest selling entertainment product of all time in GTA 5. That's made in Scotland. And, we have the Lego games, a huge franchise, which are made right here in the UK. And it's really interesting because so many people who play games, and particularly young people, and their parents don't realise those games are actually made in the UK and that we have an industry here that's so rich and fulfilling as a career. So
in terms of turnover, how big is the industry? How much is it worth to the UK?
Well, last year it was worth over £500,000 to the UK economy, PLC, but in terms of the consumer market, it was £3.5 billion, and that's because it's not just the games themselves, it's the culture around games, it's the peripherals, it's the consoles, it's tickets for live events. We're seeing this real kind of growth in people going to see games being played, called esports, which is watching games being played competitively, or even just big expos like EGX, which happens in Earls Court in a couple of weeks' time in London. And there are those kinds of games festivals all over the country. And the whole culture around games is really vibrant and rich, just like it is, if you're talking about comic book culture or film culture or TV culture. The fan base is huge.
And I'm aware that I am saying this to a lady. Is it right to say that gaming is a male-dominated industry?
No, it is a young sector, and if you look at other sectors and creative sectors, there is more of a balance in terms of gender split behind the screen, in terms of people making, the products, the content. Depending on which figures you look, we look at creative skill sets figures, and they say that about 14% of the industry is women. So that's from jobs in development, actually making the games, to selling the games. There's a huge business around publishing games still, and that involves marketing and sales and so on. So there's a lot of sort of jobs in the industry. We need more of a diverse production or development workforce. And frankly, the whole economy needs a more diverse, productive workforce. When you have equal representation, or you have diversity of opinions, or people with bringing a different skill set to a job, or different experiences of life, you have more interesting products. It's not to say the products aren't interesting now. Yeah. It's just that, sometimes there's an economic kind of case for, there's this whole audience here just desperate to get their hands on different kinds of games or different kinds of films or TV programs. And unless you have people who can understand that audience really well, and that's not saying a man couldn't understand what a woman audience wants, but it's an economic issue. There's a whole bunch of people who are desperate for, just ravenous for more and more different kinds of experience, different kinds of games. And does that come from recruiting people abroad, or are we talking going down to good level, getting people involved there? Is that where it comes from? In this country, it's not just a game sector issue. We ran the Next Gen Skills campaign. We funded that, which was instrumental. It was a coalition campaign. It was instrumental in getting the curriculum changed in this country. The story I told at the top about our industry being made of bedroom coders in the 80s, that really is something we lost somewhere along the line in the education system. somewhere along the line, we started to teach kids how to read technology and using spreadsheets and so on, as opposed to creating technology, creating programs, and actually being able to program and understand what goes on under the bonnet. So our Next Gen Skills campaign was off the back of a Nesta report that was co-authored by our vice chair and complete living legend, that is Ian Livingstone, who wrote all the fighting fantasy books. The Choose Your Own Adventure books, which topped the children's top sellers list in the 80s. And they wrote a report that really identified the way that programming isn't taught and technology is taught, or the kind of stuff that we've moved away from in schools. So that campaign, off the back of that report, really was a very powerful united voice to tell government, and Gove in particular, that coding is essential to our economy, not just to our games sector, but to the economy as a whole. Every single sector and industry is underpinned by people who can create systems, who can understand problem solving, who can understand an algorithmic way of thinking. They are crucial meta skills that our economy needs, not just the games industry. When it comes to games industry, what we need is people who can understand that, but then also have that real creative, artistic skill as well. Because when you make a game, you need a team that has this real cross-disciplinary skill set, and that's art and high-tech skills.
Mm. So did they implement anything in the schools for you, or were you just going around to schools, universities yourselves, giving lectures and seminars, trying to recruit people, or how does that work?
There's a number of things we do. So as of September this year, this month, coding is back on the curriculum. Mm. So that was a win.
Okay, yeah.
Win. Gove finally recognised and went at GCSE level.
Okay.
So if schools out there, if you're a parent or a child or anyone watching and your school isn't doing coding, they should be. And there's lots of resources, and we're involved in a London project that we hope to extend to the rest of the country to really help the teachers who used to teach ICT, which was kind of learning how to use Word and learning how to use spreadsheets.
Can you code?
I used to do HTML, and I have vowed to make a game. And there's so many this year. There's so many really, really good tools to help you code or to help you program. I mean, for instance, anyone can go to Scratch, which is a really simple kind of visual coding language. And I've done this with my 13-year-old niece. You know, we made a game in about 20 minutes using Scratch with having no kind of coding knowledge. So, you know, there are lots of tools out there, but it is fundamentally important that the coding curriculum and the program study is about understanding at a top level the principles underlying coding. Because it doesn't matter what language you're learning, you need to understand what coding is about, and really it's about problem solving. So we won that battle. We've got coding on the curriculum. So all schools will be teaching it. We're doing this London-based project to help give confidence and capacity to older ICT teachers who now have to teach the new curriculum, and helping them to understand how to introduce kids to coding and programming, sometimes not even touching code, sometimes using magic or using drama, you know, because it's a language, it's a way of thinking. We also run something called the Video Games Ambassadors Network, which is a UK-wide network of volunteers from the games industry who will go into their local schools and evangelise about the industry, because it's so important, particularly for girls, that they understand that the games industry is not full of, middle-aged, white-coated men, which is what they assume if you talk about computer programming or computer science to them. So we need to change those perceptions, and we do that through putting people in front of kids and saying, you too could have an amazing job, look what I do, it's awesome.
And this is why you represent the board you do.
Well, hopefully.
And then things like, you said maths, you have to be good at maths to kind of do coding, is that the kind of skill set? Or can you learn it? Basically, what I'm saying is, could I go and do it now as an adult, or are you looking for a young person? Anyone could go. Anyone could do
it. I was rubbish at maths, and I have very little confidence when it comes to maths. What coding does, and particularly depending on the sort of program that you might use, so Scratch, again, is a good example, it actually starts making you more comfortable with maths if you're not comfortable with maths. So, you know, you have to start sort of adding up and using maths, but then you understand why you're using maths, so it becomes more of a kind of logical thing. So, you know, there's lots of studies that show that kids who are using different programs to, create games are you know, more comfortable with maths if they haven't been before. But yeah, ideally, you know, and don't forget, this is just if you want to go and make a game. There are, if you have an A-level student, for instance, who's got maths, art, physics, that is the kind of dream skill set. And that's quite an unusual combination. And lots of teachers at schools or parents would think, well, what on earth are you going to do with maths, physics and art? You're going to be an architect. And it's like, well, you could be an architect, or you could be an architect of fun. And you could make games, you know, and getting that careers information and really helping parents and teachers and children to understand that these subjects take you to this industry that exists in this country, you know, that you love playing. You know, you love playing these products. This is a job you can get. But you don't need to do those skills. You can go into publishing. We need lawyers. We need analysts. We need finance people. We need all sorts of people. PR, we need all sorts of people because this is such a huge industry. You know, we're globally, in terms of revenue, the games industry is 20 billion more than the music industry. We consistently top the UK's best-selling entertainment products, beating box office sales, album sales and DVD sales. So we are a huge industry, but people just don't realise that.
And people consider it a hobby. Some people like... there was the Game On video that we have a channel that I was telling you about a few minutes ago. I think one of the guys said that there was a game that cost something like 500 million to make, but yet, and they saw it sold like 380 million copies worldwide, and they made 33 times the money back, something like that. It's just madness.
It's huge.
But, yeah, it's just enormous. But then, do you think more people with this new technology, it's going digital though? How easy is it to make an app? That kind of thing. Are apps the new games? Is that the kind of way? Like, if I had a clever concept for an app now, how would I go about developing it? I don't even know that.
Well, games are span across all platforms. That's what's been really interesting about this sector. It's really innovated very, very quickly across new platforms, and the internet has completely exploded that, and so have smartphones. And as I said earlier, you know, there are lots of tools, engines and programs that help you make a game across these platforms. So you can code it once or make it once, and then you can port it to other platforms. And we're seeing, you know, it's interesting time for the industry because you have the traditional, you know, what we call running what we call micro studios, because they might be 3-people teams or even a solo developer. And they're, you know, really first and foremost kind of looking at probably mobile as a platform, and maybe PC as well. PC is still a really strong platform for games, and particularly in indie games. So there are tools. I mean, you know, there are 8-year-old kids who can make an app. You know, there's a 12-year-old boy who has made his game that's on the App Store for sale, and he's also just got the tax credit for that. You know, there are tools out there. There are also really good groups and programs that go across the country and in schools to try and help kids understand, and teachers, how easy it can be to develop an app, like Apps for Good. However, it's not easy to develop a hit game.
Okay.
It really isn't.
Like Angry Birds.
Like Angry Birds. The story of Angry Birds, you know, Rovio, it took them 55 games until they hit on Angry Birds as their success. That's a lot of games to develop.
Yeah. And then how do you just launch the app on the iTunes Store, or who do you go to? How does that? I don't know the process.
Yeah, you basically get approved as a developer through Apple, and you become an Apple developer, and you sign the agreements and blah blah blah, and you can launch it, and they check it, and
once it starts getting traction, it kind of builds up, and then all of a sudden it explodes, and that's what you hope for.
Yeah, but that's the problem. So discoverability is becoming a massive issue. You know, being found on the App Store. You know what it's like probably if you're looking for, you know, it's quite difficult. Well, it's easy to browse. Technically, you know, you can browse, but then you have to go to review sites, or you have to go somewhere else, like anything else, to really sort of get that sort of, you know, oh, that's something that I might like. You know, if you liked this, then recommended, you might like this other app or this other game. It's becoming a real issue, discoverability.
Then do you get a lot of people coming to you with ideas then, and say, listen, can you help me launch this platform, you know, with your contacts? Does that happen?
Well, we can't do that. You know, we're a trade association, so we represent the sector and we represent our members, and we have to be objective, but we can help introduce them to people, help point them in the right direction. You know, we do lots of events, we do lots of knowledge building events and networking events, and lots of free guides that, you know, other members might write to help each other. The games industry is a really collaborative one. It really is there to help each other. You know, we have throughout the country loads of informal meetups just in the pub, and that's where a lot of developers just swap ideas, just help each other with particular programming problems that they might be encountering. You see it all the time on Twitter, you know, I'm having this issue with shaders, you know, and someone will jump in and help. It's such an amazing sector to be in.
The social media helps.
Oh, absolutely. Social media is critical. The games industry has always had a really, really close relationship and a long-term kind of relationship with players, with the community. And there are community management jobs, you know, that are you know, really highly sought after, really, because a lot of games now, because you have this online relationship or, you know, constant relationship with your community of players, they're telling you what they like and what they don't like. You can't let that lead 100% of your decision making, but it's very, very collaborative and very much a kind of, we listen to our players because we are producing products for them, you know, and it's almost become this sort of co-production relationship, which is really interesting. We know what they're doing every kind of minute, you know, depending on what platform. All the next-gen consoles are always connected to the internet as well. So, you know, that data that's coming through about what people are doing, where they're dropping off, where they're, you know, maybe having issues is really, really detailed compared to an industry like TV.
Yeah. I think that from my experience of gaming, what I've seen online, it's quite a loyal following, and everyone seems to help each other out. It's a different kind of community, and it's funny how you can play someone in a game you've never met, you know, online and whatever games that I don't even know, it's connected via broadband and all that. That was another question I had. Do you think that broadband speeds in the UK could be faster? Is that problematic, or because I'm sure there's parts of the UK that still can't get access to fast broadband?
We have ginormous files, and that's why, you know, a lot of games come on a disc. It's easier, and everyone knows, you know, when you're talking about consoles, you turn on your console and you have to do so many updates, you know, and you're sort of waiting there for half an hour before you can then play, and then it's got to download. And, you know, these are enormous files we're talking about, because the complexity of a AAA game is absolutely huge. You know, when there's so much code and so much you know, bits and bytes in there, so they are huge files. And for that, you know, we've got the potential for, you know, live streaming of games and over your connection, and that hasn't grown as fast as we would like to see in the UK, and that is because of broadband speeds. You know, we know that government's really committed to making sure that we have super fast cities and fast broadband everywhere. But if you look at the likes of Korea, South Korea and China, their broadband speeds are phenomenal and always have been. And you look at Korea and what that means for how games have developed there. Esports in particular, so watching games as a spectator activity, has been phenomenally successful and is huge. And, you know, the stars, and that's probably because live streaming has been adopted much earlier, because the broadband speeds were that much greater at an earlier stage.
I know you said esports. Is that where a massive lot of people will get together and just play games in front of each other, or?
Yeah,
I'm not really sure.
And so esports is basically it's been there for, you know, 20 odd years, or 15, 20 odd years. I remember I was a journalist. I wrote 2004 about, I profiled I know I profiled a professional esports personality called Fatality. And he's still one of, like, the top earning, you know, esports stars. It's huge. It is basically, yes, people watching en masse, teams of people or individuals play games competitively. And it can be games from, you know, Dota 2 is the biggest one. That was the most recent tournament in the States in July. And the prize pot for that was crowdfunded, and it was bigger than any kind of mainstream, you know, most mainstream sports prize funds. 71 million people watched esports or participated in esports last year alone. It is absolutely massive. ESPN in the States actually aired the final in that tournament in July. And it's stadia full of are full of people watching these, and it's a real kind of, you know, exciting adrenaline-filled event. There's a brilliant documentary actually on iTunes about it called Free to Play, which I recommend anyone going to watch. In fact, it's on YouTube.
I must check it out
for free.
What I was going to say was, in the UK, I think it was a year or two ago now, there was a games tax break.
Mm-hmm.
Has it helped, benefited, impact?
So we and a number of people in the industry fought long and hard for that for many years. The film industry has had tax breaks for some time. And I remember, again, showing my age, when it was like, the Brits are coming, you know, and it was this whole kind of rebirth of the British film industry.
Bond.
Yeah, and Chariots of Fire.
Yeah,
you know.
and all those, yeah.
And, you know, this has been a long process to argue the case. It's quite complex because tax breaks of any kind constitute what's called state aid, and that's illegal according to EU kind of guidelines, laws, unless you can prove it that it's needed on research and development grounds, which we already have, or on increasing the amount of kind of culturally relevant products that are produced. And we had to argue the case to the government in the UK was totally for the tax breaks. They were really, really for it because they could see the need and why it was required. But we had to argue the case to the European Union. And finally, in March of this year, we got the green light. So from 1st of April, it means that if you're developing a game, no matter what size of budget, because budgets for games can be, you know, very little to ginormous, you get effectively 20% of your development costs back. Even if the game makes a loss, even if the game is cancelled, 20% of that back from the taxman.
At the end of the year? At
the end of the tax year. And the taxman wants to give people this money. And people are kind of quite suspicious about this. So why is the taxman? I mean, isn't it unusual that the taxman wants to give me money? Surely it's the other way around. And the reason why is if you look at the film industry, for every pound that has been granted in tax breaks for films, the UK government has got £12 back. And that's because the film industry has managed to then hire more people, give people jobs. Those people have living expenses. They send their kids to school here. You know, that whole kind of economics of how that works, that delivers £12 back to the government. So, of course, they want to give us money to make, you know, get inward investment in terms of studios setting up here instead of, you know, Canada or elsewhere. And we want that. We want the UK to be top of the global charts again when it comes to the industry. We have slipped down to number 5 globally in terms of game production. We want to be number 1.
Is London the hub?
Our hubs are all over the UK, interestingly. And sometimes it's where we have very, very few really large game development studios left in the UK, and we'd love to get more in, and that's what the tax breaks will hopefully do. But, you know, as everyone, it's been tough economically out there for every sector. So it's kind of gone like this, the industry. And we have seen, actually, that clusters are really in the Midlands. They might be in Brighton, Guildford, Cambridge.
Oh, it's a lot, yeah.
Liverpool, the North East, Scotland, Bristol. They're all over the place. And of course, London. So, you know, we're not as concentrated in London compared to other industries, which is really good because I'm not from London. There is life outside London. In fact, I'm half Scottish. So, you know, it's fantastic that people don't have to move down to London necessarily in order to, you know, make great games and, you know, provide employment for people.
Who are the big developers here then?
Well, I mean,
what do they develop? I know you mentioned there's a couple of
I mean,
GTA.
Rockstar North is
it's a big one.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge.
Are they British?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, okay. I used to play GTA growing up. I loved it. I haven't played it in years now. San Andreas or Vice City was the last one I think I played.
I actually really enjoy playing GTA, probably because I can't drive in real life, and it gives me the chance just to drive, and I now know why I haven't passed my test.
Because of GTA? Here on the other side of the road?
I'm not blaming GTA, I'm just saying.
There was something I wanted to ask you about being a female CEO. What's it like in the boardroom?
It's fun. You know, it's... As a woman, you have to build everyone has to build a shield of resilience. You know, in life you get comments, you get, you know, whatever gender you are, whatever difference you might have, you're going to get, sometimes life is tough, you know, and you just have to be resilient and get back on your feet and be confident in yourself. And that is hard to learn. My board is fantastic. I do have women on my board as well, and I really go out my way to make sure that, you know, I'm encouraging women in the industry to put themselves up for board election or to participate in our subgroups or to chair them. Or to speak at events. It's really important that we're doing that, just to show the rest of the world that, you know, we do have women in this industry. You know, being a CEO, full stop, no matter who you are, is tough.
Hard work.
It's really tough. You know, I didn't know how to be. No one knows how to do this. And you know, we always talk about imposter syndrome. You know, and I think people aren't as honest about imposter syndrome as they should be. We all have imposter syndrome. So how did I get here? Well, I'm here, so let's deal with it.
That's great. So you don't feel like there's, I know we spoke about male dominant, but you don't have to prove yourself anymore or anything.
No, I've always been a pretty feisty, mouthy person anyway. So you know,
that's a good thing. We said you're making your first game, or have you started to make it?
I haven't started to make it yet.
Thinking about it?
I am. You know, game jams. What I want to do is to hold a game jam. Game jams are where you get tons of people in a room. And 48 hours, usually over a weekend, they just sit there and make a game around a theme that's set and eat pizza and fruit and healthy stuff like that too.
No beer.
No beer at all, no. And it's a fantastic way to just get some ideas and give people kind of space. And
a giant brainstorm.
Yeah, it's great. You usually work in teams.
Okay.
And then there's usually a kind of winner. I'd like to hold a game jam for people in the games industry who've never made a game, because there are quite a few of us. Because we might be in other kinds of roles, you know, and love this industry and love the products and don't want to be anywhere else. But we have this kind of, you know, need to, do you know what? I could make a cat. There aren't enough cat games in the world, and that's going to be my game.
Cat videos.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so I think there's a potential kind of game jam coming along. And
then I know you said earlier was it your niece, you made a 20-minute game. How big can it get? Who finances it after that? You go to developers, they come along. I know that how long is a piece of string, but I can't even understand how you can make a game in 20 minutes with this scratch thing. Like, what was the game? Or
it was a very, very, very simple game where you had to just click when you saw the head come up.
It's like
you
Snake.
Know? Yeah, exactly. You know, it's very, very simple. And that's when you start, you know, and a lot of people don't realise that games are, you know, a craft. They're a highly creative process, and sometimes you might say, okay, it's going to be like that. That there are game mechanics, there are certain kind of rules and genres, and you know, you can say, okay, it's going to be a point-and-click adventure, or it's going to be a narrative, story-driven, or it's going to be a 3D, 2D platform, or whatever. You know, there's this language and vocabulary. When I used to be at Channel 4, and I was commissioning editor there for education, and we spent all our money on games because games are the best way to reach teenagers. And, you know, that language would always be deployed. It would be like, it's like, but it's different. It's kind of going to do this. And that was always very helpful. But access to finance and where you take your game next is a real issue in this industry. And it's not just with game sector, it's with creative industries. Banks aren't loaning. They don't understand creative industries because we're creating kind of products that they can't necessarily kind of see.
Take off or not.
Yeah, and it is well, you know, it's perceived to be a hit-driven business, and a risky business. But there was a report by Nestor a few years ago that identified that actually, when you looked at bank lending and types of businesses that were getting bank lending, bank loans, lots of cafes and restaurants and sort of catering businesses were getting them. Yet they were more likely to shut down than games companies. You know, so there's this perception which isn't true. And I think that within the investment community in the UK, there's a lot of work to be done to help them understand how the games industry has changed and matured. You know, it's no longer just about the AAA, very, very kind of expensive and large-scale productions. We also have, you know, this middle ground of, you know, maybe companies of 60 or 30 sort of doing very well, thank you very much. And then we have these entrepreneurial startups, you know, these people who are very small, agile teams. And you have this diversity of business models as well. You have games that you offer initially for free, and then there's in-app purchasing, or you pay up front, or there's subscription-based models. You know, there's all sorts of different business models in this industry. So getting investors to understand where their return on investment is and how they value the IP within a team and a game and what they're doing is a bit of a challenge, I think.
And then I'm going to come to writers and storylines and stuff. I know the new Assassin's Creed game is next month. It's coming out. It's October. I did get to see some of it because we did a preview. They had Paris. I think it's set in Paris.
French Revolution.
It's just amazing. The graphics, like the HD, the drawings. Like, I mean, the production of that.
Oh, the art. Yeah.
It's from start to finish. I mean, it's I think it's probably harder to do than a movie because you've actually got to physically draw it and go to these places and instead of just shoot. And I mean, how do the writers, do you help them promote storylines, or if they kind of have their own way of life? Or
yeah, I mean, you know, these games take years. They're years in production, the Assassin's Creeds of the world, and you know, they've had a really successful franchise, and that's because, you know, they look and feel slightly different, and I think they've done tremendously well with it. I think that you know, when, just like films, if there's a kind of story that's got historical fact and is kind of based in a particular historical period and moment in history where the people kind of recognise and know, that's always really interesting to me personally as someone who loves kind of that kind of film, for instance. But yeah, I mean, every single game starts with a sort of pen stroke. You know, these kind of concept artworks are beautiful when you look at them. You know, the finished product is beautiful, but when you look at the actual concept drawings and sketches and storyboarding, it's amazing. You know, it's so, I don't know how they do it. I'm such in awe, and I'm very lucky to be around people who are producing these fantastic things.
So creative. Absolutely.
I feel ashamed.
Not at all. I was going to ask you the best thing about your job.
Being around these creative people. Honestly, they're the nicest, most interesting, most creative people. It makes me want to cry sometimes because they're amazing. And I've been in a couple of other creative industries, and they're just so willing to help, and they're so interesting and so passionate about what they're doing, which is amazing and quite unusual. You know, people love going to work in the games industry. And is
it hard for them to get a break? No.
It depends.
Not a big break, but
yeah, it really depends. I think, you know, I think there's a lot of pressure on jobs available in big studios in this country just because we don't have enough big studios opening up. And again, the tax credit and our fixing of the skills base in terms of the getting coding onto the curriculum again will hopefully help build that ecosystem again. And we do believe it will. But we have so many other opportunities. We have, you know, the chance, finding a lot of students coming up for university who want to set up their own business, who want to make their own game for mobile. And they need support as well. You know, small businesses need lots of support in terms of access to finance, making sure that the business environment is right for them. And there's a lot of kind of business skills that needs to be taught at school level and at university level that probably currently isn't being taught as well as it should be. And that's something that we need. We need people who have the raw skills and talent, but also the sort of entrepreneurial nous or the business skills that we need. It's just such an exciting time, and if I was 20 again, I would probably be taking a different path.
Coding.
Yeah.
Just to say, I'm here with Jo Twist. She is the CEO of the Association of the UK Interactive Entertainment. We've had a question in from Sam saying he's only just joined. Can you explain to him a little bit what UKIE does again?
Sure. So UKIE is a trade body, so we represent the games industry in the UK. To politicians, to the media. We try and help companies practically in terms of just understanding, kind of meeting people, introducing them, connecting them to sources of finance, or trying to lobby government to make the business environment right and, you know, the ecosystem healthy for businesses to survive in this country.
Peaky Blue, I have another question. Would like to know, how does a gaming PR company get its... I think it was the financing, was it? Get its financing.
A games PR company. You get clients.
Maybe and you get one up.
Yeah, you get to know people. You know, social media is absolutely critical in terms of what PR means now. You can write a traditional press release if you're releasing a game, but you know, I think a lot of people, as we said earlier, are having issues. There's a lot of companies that self-publish now who go straight to market. You know, whether it be through iOS or Google Play, or they go straight to market through Steam, which is the one of the biggest PC retail platforms, you know. So it becomes quite interesting problem for them. So there's lots of space for PR, but it has to be not your traditional PR, I think. It has to be much more of a, you know, understanding how to build relationships and how to get your story about why this game is the game that you're making. You know, that's what people are interested. There are a lot of people making games in this country, so being spotted above the noise is increasingly a challenge.
So you would stand out with social media?
You have to build relationships on social media. You have to be contributing to the conversation. You have to be interesting, not just spamming people and going out there and saying, look at my game, look at my game. It's like, why? Why should I look at your game? You know, what is it about you, your game, how you've done this, where it's come from that's interesting?
So you were saying you do have networking events people can go to say there's someone watching there today who wants to go. So you'd say to them, come along and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're all on the website.
All on your website.
Yeah. But there's also, throughout the country, there are tons and tons and tons of local networks, of local meetups, just in the pub, usually. And, you know, go and search them out, because that's really useful to meet other people in the area, wherever you are across the UK, you know, to try and help each other. And sometimes some amazing things happen.
Another question. Now that coding is in the curriculum, what subject do you think should be taken out, if any? You know, if coding, well, it has gone in September, should one be taken out?
No.
What would you get rid of? None?
No. What we would like to see is art being considered more of more importance in schools, because, you know, as I said, our ideal skill set is someone who has that real kind of programming understanding and literacy, but also who can be creative with that and can put that together and be artistic as well. You know, coding is a craft.
It's a craft. The Tractor Jaws would like to know, do you have any plans to collaborate with the Irish gaming industry? Oh,
yeah, well, I'm good friends with David Sweeney, who's my equivalent for Games Ireland.
Okay.
And actually, a couple of days ago, I was talking to someone about going over to Belfast, because there's a good scene of... Oh, God, my favourite programme ever.
I know, yeah. That's the first thing I thought of when you said Belfast. Yeah,
no, that's why I'm going to go. Yeah. No. I'll go and cosplay.
There is a massive creative hub there, though.
They're huge. And, you know, the reason why we're called interactive entertainment is because sometimes when people think about games and gamer, you think of the particular thing, you know, which is actually quite kind of out of date now. I never describe myself as a gamer. I'm someone who plays games. And, you know, the blurred lines between what a game is on an iPhone, for example, there are other phones available, and what a interactive entertainment is interesting to look at. You know, I used to be at BBC and I was commissioning editor for multi-platform entertainment. So I looked after things like bloody Strictly Come Dancing online. And I thought, and I wasn't allowed to do games. And I thought, but entertainment, you know, it's games. It's like, you know, there are 55% of the UK population plays games regularly. You know, it's half male, female, 55 million hours a day of games are played in this country.
Would you consider things like, I was only watched the X Factor last night, their app?
No.
That's not a game?
No.
Even though it's sort of interactive?
No, it's just a fun thing.
Okay. Mark would like to know...
Game design and making a game is a real skill.
Okay.
You know, it's not just kind of making something, do something repetitively and you get loads of points.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Mark would like to know, where do you think the gaming industry will be in 50 years' time?
50?
50, yeah.
Oh, come on, I won't even be alive then.
Of course you will.
No, I really won't. Gosh, you know, who knows? You know, I wish I could have those answers. I'm very, very excited by virtual reality.
That's what I was thinking when I thought virtual, yeah.
All my life I've been excited by virtual reality. There was a Murder, She Wrote episode where Angela Lansbury gets a virtual reality headset. and also I was a massive fan of sci-fi anyway, always have been. And that sort of co-presence, holodeck type, world is nearer than we think. You speak to some people, and it's going to be interesting to see how the consumer devices, in terms of Oculus Rift and Morpheus and so on, and the Samsung Gear, is going to actually be taken up by ordinary people, because it has to be taken up by the mainstream. You saw what the Wii did to games and to the whole kind of way that we play games, and that was fascinating to watch. I was a journalist at the time when that was launched, and for me personally, it was a godsend, because I really have very little patience, and I don't like steep learning curves.
Yeah. What about things like Google Glass?
I've tried it.
I tried them on the weekend.
Did you? What did you think?
You blink twice and you take a picture. I don't know. I thought it was so weird, and then it's so strange. And then the pictures came into your phone. It's madness.
My other half has one, and I was trying to kind of, balk it. I was like shouting by his ear, Google Glass tweet. Okay, Google, tweet this. Go away, go away. I don't know if it works like that. I don't know. I've seen some mock-up videos of what games would look like using Google Glass. So, you're kind of playing as you're walking along the street. And I'm more interested, I think, in the potential of virtual reality and that sort of potential of co-presence in a virtual environment, and haptics. I think, being able to feel stuff. You've got all these kind of cool bits of kits now coming out, that, like the Omni, which is a circular thing, and you're walking on this pad, and you've got these special shoes, so you're actually walking while you've got the Oculus Rift on. I remember being at an expo just in June, and someone was doing this in the expo floor and had their Oculus Rift headset and a big gun, and pardon me, sorry, it's too much coffee, and was walking along in this Omni and sort of turning around and just aiming at me, and I was like, dude, okay, I'm sorry.
We have a question from Sam. He has said, will UK esports be as big around the world as it is in this country?
I think we really would love to see it being as big. We have Team Dignitas as one of our members, and we really want to see some new, really, really brilliant professional athletes coming through the ranks from the UK, and they need support and they need help to do that. There are some big events. Insomnia just happened a couple of weeks ago up in Coventry, and that was huge, but it could be bigger. So we really want to help create these mass kind of participatory esports events in this country. And I think really that mainstream media, kind of mainstream sports media, should be looking at esports with great interest. In Korea, these professional athletes are called professional athletes. In the States, they have now professional athlete visa status. In Korea, they are treated like Premiership footballers.
We have a question, from Enhanced Gamer Chris. He's saying he did coding in school, if I'm correct, and he said he learnt more in the week after he left school than they actually did teaching him coding in school. He said, is there a problem with the teaching of it?
That's why we're doing this project in London at the moment with 10 schools, because we think teachers need to be helped in terms of understanding where coding can lead you to, what kinds of jobs, what kinds of things it can help you do. As I said, I think the reality is that the level of understanding about the relationship between coding and games in the games industry and the jobs available is very low. So we want to help teachers and schools understand what career pathways coding can lead you into, but also just imaginative ways to teach it. My mum was a teacher, and she used to say you spend 2 weeks trying to figure out, okay, how do I know what I'm supposed to teach, but I need to figure out the skill sets and the personalities in my class in order to understand how I'm going to teach this to them. What's going to turn them on, what's going to really inspire them and spark their imagination. And that can be, they need help to do that, because teachers are stretched, teachers are under-resourced, they're not given enough training and support. So it's up to industry to step in, I think. And I think there is a call to work with government to do that. But industry can step in and really sort of inspire the teachers in order to inspire the kids. Yeah, I think that's a great step. In Hearts Gamer Chris also has another question. He said about coding. He said, how is there evidence that it has shown that coding in school will help?
the gaming industry?
Oh, definitely. So the Next Gen Skills report identified the lack of coding on the curriculum as a problem. You know, that was a definite evidential kind of problem we could see. So, you know, again, it's not just sort of plonking coding onto the curriculum. You know, we consider what's happened, which we were told would never happen. You know, we were told when we embarked on this campaign that you're not going to get coding on the curriculum. We have. It's part of the EPAC as well. And, you know, that is kind of alpha stage for us. So that a lot more development needs to be done. And it's going to be a long journey. But again, it's about supporting and putting that industry know-how and knowledge. We are such a fast-changing industry, and it is difficult enough to keep up with it being in the industry, you know. So, you know, helping teachers, and particularly then lecturers as well, if they go to university, to help them understand, or again, help them to sort of figure out, okay, you know, this is now the language, or this is the platform, or this is the engine they should be playing with, is really important.
What's your next step you'd like to see happen then? Next milestone? That was a great one.
Yeah, it's a great one. I mean, you know, we've just put together our policy manifesto for the next couple of years, and for the next, obviously, we've got general election next year. We've got a referendum, you know, very soon. So we have been, you know, we talk to politicians all the time, to policymakers. And we really want to see now some support given to some of the talent within our industry and some of the really innovative content that wants to be made but can't find a commercial route. If you look at the way that the tax breaks for the film industry, for high-end TV drama and for animation, but for other creative industries, has unlocked other routes of public funding. So, for example, National Lottery funding for content, innovative content or films. We want to see that happen for games, because we truly believe that games are a really, really powerful economic force, but also a really powerful cultural force. We also need to get some help in order to sell the opportunity of the UK, to really sell what UK is about to the rest of the world. We have enormous creativity in the UK. We're quirky people, you know, and we're diverse people, and we speak our minds, and that is shown through games. You know, if you play Grand Theft Auto, there's some real kind of quirky jokes in there that kind of probably goes over the heads of a lot of people outside the UK. But we have that kind of sense of humour, and that's a real exportable thing. So we really need to help sell the opportunity to the rest of the world. We need to make sure that we do have diversity coming through the talent pipeline. We do have more girls taking up computer programming and coming into the games industry. Because it is happening, but it's happening. It's going to be a slow job, and it's not just again for the game sector. It is for every other sector. You know, we have our country is made up half women, half men. Unless we get women into jobs, into these high-tech jobs, which, you know, there are going to be increasingly more of, as an economy, we're going to suffer. You know.
While you mentioned women there, De Tilt has said, do women really want different games to men?
I think different people want different things. I don't think it's necessarily a gendered thing.
What's a woman's game?
There is no such thing as a woman's game.
I was trying to think of one.
There's no such thing as a woman's game. You know, different people have different requirements. Like, I have a whole taxonomy of games. So when people talk about the game that they play on the toilet, or the game that they play on Twitter. It's
not really a game.
Toilet Twitter. Or the game that you play when you're waiting for a bus or something. And then there's so I love Drop 7 still. You know, Drop 7 is one of my favourite mobile games. But then when I want a more immersive experience, I love The Room and The Room 2 by Fireproof Games. It's an awesome game. And Monument Valley. But I don't find enough of those kinds of really high quality, artistically beautiful puzzle games available on iPad. I want more of those, but that's just me. I love playing GTA when I just want a real stress relief. When I want an even bigger stress relief, I'll play any Lego game, because I love just the noise of me.
I've never played a Lego game.
Haven't you? Oh my God, they're amazing.
I used to play The Sims.
Oh yeah, well, The Sims 4's out. You know, that's becoming.
They did a video with it on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, that's like one of the most successful PC games franchises of all time, and
I'm obsessed with it. That and Theme Hospital, Theme Park.
Exactly. There is so much diversity. This is what's so great about it. Depends what mood you're in. Depends how much time you have. It depends what you want to do. You know, it really is great to see this diversity, but you know, again, it's not about making games for women. It's just about bringing different people with different perspectives together, but into a production team, a development team, to ask a different question. Like when I was commissioning games at Channel 4, I would just ask the question, can you give me an editorially justifiable reason why this character has to be able-bodied? Can you give me an editorially justifiable reason why this character has to be white or male? You know, so I would just ask the question because I knew that we were trying to appeal to a broad audience of 14 to 19-year-olds. And, you know, we know that people like to relate to stories or to people, you know, who look like them or, you know, who they can relate to culturally or through experiences. And that's when you're going to get a bigger kind of audience for your product, where you know that this particular section of the audience is underserved. So, well, why not, you know, serve them up something they're going to love?
Yeah. The next question is from Swilliams. He said, what is your favourite game ever and why? And it's hard. There's a lot we've mentioned.
It has to be Indiana Jones, Lego Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was my first experience, really, of a game that was just not even using dialogue, just using sounds. It got across the story and the humour, and I laughed a lot playing it. And that was really my...
the game?
Well, yeah, again, it depends on what game. You know, it really depends on what you're playing. I mean, I do love The Room. I think The Room is going to be one of my eternal favourites. It came out in 2012. It won like a BAFTA for Best British Game. But, you know, I'm desperate to play Destiny. You know, I've got it's not the kind of... I love sci-fi. So I would imagine I'm probably going to like this, but I am rubbish at online multiplayer because I get very frightened.
Is there a game you've finished and played? So it's probably
Lego.
Indiana, and you play it over and over and over again.
No, I won't play it over and over. Just like books.
Just finish once and done.
Yeah.
I
mean, Blade Runner's the only film that I will watch over and over and over again. Okay. I was watching it last night. You know.
I've got a few of them.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, you know, there are some other films, but I'm too embarrassed to mention them. But again, it's like books. I never read a book again.
Okay.
I just won't go there. You know, I've had that experience, that moment in time. I loved it, and I won't go back to it.
Okay.
You know.
Ami19 has said...
Apart from Drop 7, sorry.
Okay. Oh.
Because there's not a story, you know, there's no story there.
Ami19 has said, are there any negative impacts to the gaming industry in the UK?
Nope.
All positive.
All positive. I mean, how can it not be?
The price
you know?
of the games, people would argue that they're very expensive.
You know, again, depends what platform. There's so many different ways, so many different business models, so many different ways of paying. And if you look at the tremendous amount of effort and hours and creativity and people power that go into these games and the amount of gameplay you get out of that game, if you look compared to you go and have a really shitty experience at a cinema with people, because I get driven insane by people eating loudly and rustling papers and talking. And I've paid a ridiculous amount of money for this experience, and it's over in 3 hours if I'm lucky. You know, I think the economies of scale are just ridiculous.
Miko wants to know, sorry, I can't remember the question. Mark will tell us now. It was something about... Oh, yeah, Xbox One or PlayStation 4?
Well, you know, they're both my members, so I have to be entirely impartial about this.
But?
No, I can't. I can't.
No?
I have both. No, I don't.
Is there a lot of freebies in gaming?
No.
No?
Really not.
No. I thought there would be.
No, I mean, we do.
PR.
We will ask for. We do something called Play Beer Friday, where we invite a company in or someone interesting we've met in to play games with us in the office from about 4:30 on a Friday, and we play games, usually their games, and we drink beer. You know, it's awesome. So we often ask for a copy of the most recent release for that purpose, obviously.
Obviously. Question from Mark: when you eventually make a game, what genre would it be?
Well, so I hate platform games. I think it would have to be something fairly simple to begin with, and I think it would probably... It might be a point-and-click adventure. I actually quite like point-and-click adventures.
Which is?
Where you're basically kind of solving puzzles and you're pointing and, you know... I'm not very good at skill-based games. No,
that's not point and click.
no, that's match 3 as a genre. I'm rubbish at first-person shooters, and obviously, you know, a first-person shooter is very difficult. Yeah, obviously, I'd make that.
Oh, yeah. That's it. That's some of the questions. I have one more. Any surprises or trade secrets you could share with us?
Any surprises
coming up, or trade secrets or anything? Pipelines?
No, all the trade secrets and surprises will be at EGX starting on the 25th of September at Earl's Court. Yeah,
it's a big. Is it weekend?
It's a massive. It's from the Thursday over the weekend. It's a massive consumer expo. All the games are going to be there. Oculus Rift, Morpheus, everything. It's going to be. It's amazing. Assassin's Creed, cosplaying, everything will be there, and I'm really looking forward to that. And
is it expensive?
No, it's a very, very cheap ticket, and it's well worth it. And my niece is coming down for the first time on her own, so she's very excited. She wants to meet all the YouTubers.
For it?
Yeah, people travel all over.
Do you travel for other ones abroad?
Yeah, we tend to do, there's a massive consumer expo with a B2B element in Cologne called Gamescom. So that just happened in August, and that has like thousands of people, and it's insane. And there's an esports tournament there, and there's a lot of cosplaying, and you just look over the sea of people, and it is nuts.
Scary.
It's amazing, and I just get goosebumps thinking about it. And you hear the music and in the expo halls. It's a phenomenal industry. I love this industry.
Yeah, it sounds like a great industry. I think that's all of our questions for today. Thank you very much. We've been joined by Joe Twist, the CEO for the Association of the UK Interactive Entertainment. Tomorrow we're joined by Alistair and Eleanor from Free to Bet, so I hope you stay tuned for that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.